Hi.
Dan! Welcome to Question Pro Workforce XDay. Clearly, you can tell how excited I am to see you.
I love it. It's in Workforce Wednesdays. Is that what it is, right? Workforce
It
Wednesday.
was work. Yes, that's all crystal. Like we were trying to figure out who's going which day for the event because we broke it out between research, CX, and workforce. And I think she was like pretty flexible and everything except for like it's Workforce Wednesday. Like it's just got to be like
I,
everyone
I
else. You pick your own day. The workforce goes on Wednesday.
I love it. Well, Crystal and Pat should have. If they don't have one, they should have a morning radio show. Just
I know.
yeah.
Well, like social media, marketing, it's all very fluid. So we're always floating around ideas. So we'll definitely grab that one.
Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, well, thank you so very much for joining us. It's such a pleasure. For those who know us, who know you, who know me, who know us together, have probably seen us share screen quite a bit over the last year. And I think maybe about a year ago is when we met and just
Mhm.
realized in how many similar ways we view the world and our passion to change it for the better and explore different ways to do it. And I've just really loved all of our conversations. I've loved how much I've learned from you and your incredible experience. But not only that, also how you see the world and what you want to accomplish next and what you want to do. And so, anytime that I have an opportunity to have a platform like this and share all of that, like with more people I know and more people that know Question Pro, I absolutely love it. So, I'm so thankful for you for your time today and for joining us.
Well,
I
the
do.
feeling is mutual. Thank you for all the kind words. It's been the best relationships are those that share back and forth, and so you've inspired me just as much, maybe more. So thank you.
No, impossible, impossible. But thank you. And I still I always mention this when we talk, and hopefully I won't be able to say it for much longer, but we have yet to meet in person.
I know.
We were this close 2 weeks ago when we were both like West Coastish between
I know.
LA and Vegas. But I'm fully optimistic that
Yes,
sometime this year we'll find a way.
and then we'll do a live stream so everyone can see the grand meeting.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because those are I mean, it's not to be missed. I think that I can't even imagine like the energy and the passion that we share through a screen. Like once we actually find ourselves in the same room around all the people, who we know and love, like it's gonna be just incredible. So something to look forward to until then, I guess. I'll think of it like as a half glass full kind of thing. Like it's something to look forward to since it hasn't happened yet. So I usually when you and I talk, I kick us off like this, like with all this admiration for who you are and what you do. But for the benefit of everybody, I am going to read a brief bio about you so they can know a little bit more around about your background and just your philosophy and approach before I hand it over to you for the keynote. And then after you're done presenting, I'll pop back in. Everybody, please, if you have any questions, I think it's again always so insightful to listen to Dan, and he has this incredible view on the workplace and life and the whole person experience. And so if you have any questions, keep them coming through his talk. We'll monitor them. We'll make sure to pop them in the end. I have the pleasure of talking with Dan quite frequently, so I don't want to monopolize the time. So if there are any additional questions from anyone else, I will, certainly pull those in. So a quick, more specific intro about Dan before we turn over the mic to him. So Dan is a thought leader, technologist, change agent, and optimist in the area of people expertise and the future of work. He inspires people to believe and focus on what inspires them. With a vision and commitment to change the way businesses think, act, and operate, Dan works with leaders and organizations around the world, helping them to meet the moment and mobilize for the future. He has more than 20 years of experience in the HR and technology industry. And Dan co founded Modern Survey in 1999 until 2016 when the company was sold to Aon, and he served as its chief operating officer. And Dan recently co founded Radical, which I know you will tell us more about in your keynote. And finally, Dan is an entrepreneur, advisor, investor, keynote speaker, film producer, and musician who has shared billings with artists of national and international acclaim. And I love that part too, because I feel like that when I first got to know you, you were talking about the workplace, and I thought, we're so similar, and I'm an organizational psychologist, and you like swooped in this like musician and producer, and I was like, like, wait a minute, like, how is that even possible? Like, how often do you meet people who are focused in HR and have like, I mean, really such a diverse background. So I love all of your experience, but I love all of these different viewpoints that you bring from different parts of your life. So that's it about Dan. I had to read it because I feel like if I actually talked about you, it would take way longer because I'm sure I would have turned this into a book. But without further ado, Dan, I will turn it over to you. You let me know if you're okay sharing the slides. I know we have a backup just in case that you got it. All right, so I'll turn it to you, and I'll
Thank
be
you.
here in the background for any help and questions until we chat.
Perfect. Thank you, Sonia, and I appreciate the warm intro. Sonia made my intro sound better than it really is. So so thank you. Again, really happy to be here. I do want to thank Question Pro for putting this event together. I'm looking forward to hear speakers today. I believe Sonia and Maddie Grant and Dr. Candace Steele Flippin are going to be speaking next. And I think Pat Laverne and Sonia will be speaking after that. So a really fun morning, and I'm really proud to be kicking it off here. So today, our focus is going to be talking about how do we foster a change mindset as we together create an advance forward towards a more human-centered working world. Right? That's our focus of today's conversation. I'm not going to use slides for the first few minutes. I do have our main slide up. I'm going to shift ahead one, and then I'm just going to speak for a little bit. So I hope that's okay. I am, as Sonia said, one of the co-founders of Radical, and we're very proud to be supporting this event as well. Very quickly about Radical. At Radical, we believe inspired change is possible. We believe in the power of radical thinking. And we believe in tolerance and trust and empathy and courage and transparency and caring more and loving more. All these things we believe in, and the importance of these things within the workplace and within society, right? And we believe in the whole person experience. And this is in inviting and celebrating everything about each other, right? And this includes new constructs, cultural and physical and social, intellectual and spiritual well-being. And most importantly, we believe in the non-negotiable reality that we must and can do better in creating a human-centered workplace within our organizations. And if we get all of this right, through all of this, inspired change is possible. And that's what we stand for, and that's what we are committed to. I wanted to start, I talked about this a few weeks ago during a presentation, but I want to talk about this again. I wanted to start by sharing something I read a few weeks back, and it really amplifies the importance of this conversation around the power of building human-centered workplaces. So we're going to have a little fun, and it's going to be a little interaction as well. So get ready, get your fingers ready to type in the chat. I read a fascinating story about someone who broke the world record for the longest tenure, the most consecutive years working at the same company. Okay, so the guess, what I'd like you to type in is how many total years, consecutive years, broke the record for the longest tenure at the same company. So let's see some of your guesses. I'm going to click over to comments. Just start putting numbers out there. Anyone who's listening. 78, good guess. 50, these are, I'm going to say, just to make it easy, low. Sonia's closer. Gia, you're low. Dan, nope, still higher. Pat knows the answer, and yet he's guessing 50. So that's he's like the Price is Right game show master, goes right down the center. No, keep a few more guesses. Higher. 40, 48. Okay. All right. Well, I think, we're getting close with this next one. Close. Let's go up a little bit more. All right. If someone guesses, they get radical swag. So we'll give it 4 more seconds. 82, still higher, a little higher. The answer is 84. So 84, 85. Sonia, Sonia, you were closest, but you were over. And Price is Right if you go over. So I think the winner is Ajia. No, Shruti is the winner, and Dan 100. Well, that would be interesting. But it's close to 100. So Walter Orthman of Brazil just turned 100 years old a few weeks ago. So it is 100 is within this conversation. And with that, he broke the world record for the longest tenure. He started working in 1938 for this textile company. He lives in Brazil, and he's now been with the company for more than 84 years. So 84 years and growing. And he described this record as his proudest achievement. He said that focusing on the present was what drove him to make history. And I want to quote him now. I don't do much planning nor care much about tomorrow. All I care about is that tomorrow will be another day in which I will wake up, I will get up, exercise, and go to work. You need to get busy with the present, not the past or the future. Here and now is what counts. End quote. So, like I said, he just celebrated his 100th birthday with coworkers and friends and family. And his advice for longevity was simple. He said, work for a good company where people feel motivated. When we do what we like, we don't see the time go by. Simple enough. This is one of those goosebumps stories I wanted to share. And let me be clear, not because I think or suggest we should all work at the same company for 84 years. In fact, I think we shouldn't. I think changing jobs is healthy. Retiring is healthy, right? These are all healthy things. I bring this story up because the only way someone can actually work for the same company for 84 years is if there's a true, trusting, and caring relationship between the worker and the organization. And this is the true definition of a successful human-centric workplace at its best. So I wanted to share this as I open because this really embodies and amplifies everything we are talking about today. So the world continues to change around us. It continues to spin, right? This is ongoing, and things haven't changed or come to a stop. Things continue to change, and they are fluid, right? Change is fluid. So we don't say work has changed forever. What we say is work continues to change. And I'm an optimist, as Sonia pointed out in the intro, and I know Sonia is an optimist too. We'll talk about that in a little bit, I think. And I will always be, and it's been hard recently, I have to be honest, to be an optimist. There's a lot happening in the world, as we know. But being an optimist isn't always so easy. And as optimists, we have to find the opportunity in the challenging moments, right? We have to find the clarity within the chaos. And if we have to find the best of humanity, even when it's sometimes blurry. And the good news is, I will always believe in humanity. And we collectively, all of us, we have to believe in humanity because we've seen the positivity and the power of what people are capable of. So before we dive into my first slide, I do want to share a quick personal story about believing in those around us, believing in ourselves, in the best of those we surround ourselves with. I was one of the founders of Modern Survey with my brother, Patrick Riley, who's also on the call today, and he's also my co-founder and partner of Radical. We were back in the day an employee engagement company. We were a holistic talent lifecycle measurement tech platform. And in 2008, the recession came along and hit many of us so hard. And like everyone, we had tough decisions to make, right? We believed in our purpose. We believed in what we did. We believed in our people. and we believed in ourselves. But the economic realities put us in a tough spot, as it did so many of you in so many small businesses. So after careful review and discussion, we made some decisions. And it wasn't lost upon us that our incredible team around us, our people around us, had gotten us to that moment in time. We were about 10 years old at the time. And we knew they were more important to us than anything else. So while so many companies, unfortunately, were cutting costs, people, and sometimes shutting their doors, we took a different approach. We continued to believe in our greatest asset, our greatest weapon, our greatest strength, our people, those humans that we chose, those humans that we surrounded ourselves around. So in order to keep every single person on the team, because we knew we'd be stronger on the backside, as founders, we decided not to pay ourselves for a period of time, as we should. This is the first thing you do. It's your company. You take the hit first, and we did that. But even with this, we knew this wasn't going to be enough, and it was going to be a struggle. So we had to reduce, free Mountain Dews and snacks and perks and things like that. And everyone understood this, and I think, in fact, expected this. And everyone knew we wanted to stay intact. But an amazing thing started to happen that has changed me forever, I think. Employee after employee started to walk into our offices and ask for pay reductions. The word got out, obviously, that we were taking pay cuts, and our employees actually came to us and asked us for pay reductions. And I get emotional every time I tell the story, because I wouldn't be here today if not for this. So they came and offered what they could afford, the reduction in what they could afford. I mean, who walks into your office and says, I would like a pay reduction? Our people believed in what we believed, and they were willing to sacrifice short-term pay for something greater, something meaningful. And what was that something? Well, it was each other, right? So they didn't do this for us. And that is key to remember. And I learned that over time. They didn't do it for us, right? They did it for each other, right? They did it for their teams, for all the employees, because they knew this was the way they could stay together, the way their family would remain intact. And what happened? We survived. In fact, we thrived once we bounced back, because we were all in it together. We were stronger together, and we all knew that. And everyone was paid back, and we started to grow at speeds we could have never imagined. And it would not have happened if not for the family staying strong together. So when I bring this up, because when I say, and I say this often, for those of you who've heard me speak, revenue, profitability, shareholder value, company value, when I say these are outcomes of doing right by your people, that these are outcomes of creating a human-centered workplace. I say this because I live this. You can't forecast everything, right? Believing in, empowering, and trusting in people around you is the best way to move things forward. In fact, it's the only way to truly change things. And today, for me, if not for this connectedness of our people, if not for the selfless decisions our people made and their belief in each other, I would not be here speaking with you right now. And I'm forever grateful, and I always will be. And with that, I will always believe in the power of humanity and the power of what people can do and accomplish together. So I wanted to share this with you. It is a personal story for me, but it's one that really changed me and put me on this mission of fighting for a human-centered workplace and always putting people first. So let's get interactive one more time. When you think about working within and experiencing a more human-centered workplace, right? What does it look like? What does it feel like? What's different? So if you could all drop in 1 or 2 word answers or short phrases, and again, if we're acting in a more human-centered way within our workplace, what does it look like? What does it feel like? What's different from what it is today versus what it could be tomorrow? So I'm going to look at some of your your answers coming in. So what does a human-centered workplace look like and feel like? One or two words to describe it. Let's see, looking for comments coming in. Connection, thank you, Sonia, about personal issues. Connections based on honesty and trust, absolutely. And these are all things we're going to be talking about now. So authenticity, love it. Outcomes, people rather than hours put in, yeah, love it. So let's dive in to where we are today, and let's go backwards in time a little bit too. The world does need our attention and care more than ever before. And with the statement, our workforce needs our attention and care more than ever before. So we do continue to be in the midst of a work revolution. And like I said, again, work has changed forever. It's continuing to change. It's fluid. We're experiencing a polarized society with extreme viewpoints and opinions where unfortunately science, facts, and data don't always prevail, but they must. And this is how we illuminate the truth. And I'll say this a couple of times today, right? Using data is critical and is a must as we continue to create and build a human-centric workplace, right? Using data is critical. We too often live with fear and distraction, over love and optimism. And we are all continuing to fight for social and racial justice and lasting change within society and within our own personal worlds and within our own personal teams and within organizations. And there's still so much work to do. We have to stay so focused on that. We're finally coming down off the cliff from a global pandemic that we had virtually no control over. And this affected our personal lives, our work lives, and our futures in many cases, right? It changed things and it continues to change things. And as a result of this, mental health and stress continues to rise across families, communities, within organizations. As the vision of our futures does remain a bit uncertain and fluid. We've had to live through furloughs and reductions and reduced hours, and organizations had to reimagine themselves literally overnight in some cases. Right? And there's a lasting impact. So this recovery is long and this is slow. So it's not going to happen overnight. So I repeat, the world needs our attention and care more than ever. But I remain extraordinarily optimistic because of all of you. So with that, let's start to talk about change and a change mindset as we think about building human-centric workplaces. The first thing, and you've all heard this, I'm sure growing up and in many times, in many conferences and speakers, but I'll say it again, change is meant to be uncomfortable. But I'm going to add to this, change is an opportunity. It always is, and it always has been. Change, in fact, is necessary. So organizations have an obligation to take action so they may do better for the humans who work for them. I'm going to repeat that one. Organizations have an obligation to take action so they may do better for the humans who work for them. And this is at the core of building a more human-centered workplace. I often talk about our North Star and what we are fighting for and why do we show up and what is our purpose and what is our why. So when we think about that, long-term success isn't found in being profit-centered. And again, profitability, revenue growth, as we know, these are all outcomes, right? These are outcomes, as I talked about earlier, of taking care of your people, putting people first. Long-term success is found in being human-centered. So let's tackle the question of what is humanity in business? What do we mean when we talk about being human-centered? It's a nice word, it sounds good. So we're going to define it a little more, and then we're going to talk about steps that we can take within our own organizations. Number one, focusing on people, right? Now, what does that mean? Focusing on people more than the algorithm. And this means not focusing on the newest tech platforms or the shiny graphs. It doesn't mean we're not focused there. It means we're always putting people first. Everything we do has to make a better experience for individuals within the organization. And building this type of culture within organizations requires relationships, right? Human relationships, conversations, where we ask each other on a regular basis, how are you doing? How are you feeling? And genuinely care about the answer, right? If we go back 3 years, a common conversation starter was, how are you doing? And we moved on. So we need to actually ask this question and genuinely care about what we hear in response. And any healthy relationship requires communication and being present. So, right, taking the time to listen, asking questions, learning and adapting. It means putting your phone down during conversations, right? Putting it upside down on the desk isn't enough. In fact, I argue put it away, right? Have a conversation, be present with your people. This is a critical part of a human-centric workforce. And we need to create human situations and interactions that inspire connection and collaboration, right? A good friend of mine recently reminded me, leaders don't fix teams. Teams fix teams. Right? Leaders don't fix teams. Teams fix teams. So I'll say that, I want to say that over and over again, but a leader can inspire, but human-centric success is up to everyone, right? So asking the simple question of each other, what does it feel like? And you can do this in a small team or large team. What does it feel like if we trust each other more? What does it feel like to us? What does it feel like if we're more empathetic during interactions, right? What does that feel like to us? Taking ownership of these words, like trust, empathy, and humility. Again, what does it feel like if we trust each other more within this group, right? What do we feel like? So make them personal, make them relevant. And this is the key part of building a human-centric workplace. So putting people first always, we talk about that, but what does this mean? It means providing power to your people with empathy, humility, compassion, and love. And it means a recommitment to your organizational values and purpose, right? So your people can connect to that. They need to know what you stand for within your organization. This is that relationship of 84 years that I talked about earlier, right? There's a relationship between personal values and purpose between the individual and the organization. And we must continue to reimagine how we work with the human always top of mind. And we'll get into that in a little bit more. So how do we change? How do we do this? How do we create culture that is human-centered? It's a great thing to do, but again, how do we do it? So first of all, traditional employee engagement, while it served us well over the years, will fall short, right? So if your answer is let's just do more surveys, more engagement surveys, that's not going to work. And I'm not saying engagement data and surveys are bad. I am saying they aren't enough. So what do we need to do? Well, organizations need to be more agile, number one, as so much remains fluid and uncertain. And so human-centered design is more important than ever. And we need to know our people. We need to truly connect with each other, empower each other, but we also need to meet people where they are. And that requires a great deal of agility. So with all of this said, one thing we can say is very clear. Organizations that choose change by putting their people first and building a culture of trust, connection, and transparency will come out on top, right? So being human-centered isn't just a nice idea. And I wasn't asked to come here to speak about being human-centered because it's a fluffy, nice thing to do. It's, of course, the right thing to do, right? To be human, to care about each other, putting people first always. But it's more than that. It's a necessary business transformation, right? So being human-centric is a necessary business transformation. And if this is not on your top priority list, it needs to be. So what's changed from the old world to the new world? I want to go through this quickly. There's a radical shift that is happening, and what motivates people is changing. In fact, it has changed and will continue to, right? So people listening models focusing on willingness to stay or managerial relationships, while of course important in classic performance management, learning and development solutions, right? This isn't enough anymore. We need to look outside the standard HR models, and we have to arm ourselves for the future. And this is looking at the new world of whole person experience, people science and purpose framework over a platform. And inspiration and motivation will rise from a willingness to fully understand each other and listen more and trust more. And this will allow people to shine. This will allow people authenticity to shine. And how do we get authenticity from our people? Well, listening to them, being present with them, trusting them. And this is the best of what we mean when we say whole person experience. So if we get this all right, we can unlock what people are saying and thinking and feeling and how they are connecting with an organization's purpose, allowing them to thrive. And in turn, fueling the organization to thrive, right? We know people are organizations' fuel, right? They need to be thriving before an organization can be thriving. It's that simple, right? Imagine an organization as a beautiful car, but with no gas. It won't get you very far. And if we're going to put gas in it, let's put in high octane gas, right? The best gas. Let's make sure we're using the highest quality of care and maintenance. And this is our people. This is what makes the car run. And again, everything ties back to this being the way we create human-centered workplaces. So I want to talk a little bit about a choose change framework, but I'm looking at the time. Before I do that, I want to talk about four changes that we're seeing and that we need to focus on in 2022 and beyond. And I'm going to go through these quickly, and then I'll walk through the model, then we'll bring Sonia on. And these four categories are connecting people and purpose. And these are things that you definitely want to be focusing on. Connecting people and purpose, addressing talent shortages and turnover, rethinking how we define productivity and engagement, and continuing to create a community of belonging. So connecting people and purpose, the majority of workers expect their jobs to give them purpose, as we know. We've been talking a lot about that. Through the pandemic, they've had a lot of self-reflection, looking in the mirror, what's important to them, what's important to me. So new research shows that over 60% of workers actually choose their employer based on their belief system, and this number is rising. So when employees feel a sense of purpose, they will be more inspired, more loyal, and actually become your best brand ambassadors, right? So what should you focus on? Define your brand promise and purpose and amplify it, scream it out loud, right? And then enable and empower your employees to engage with that purpose, become a part of that change. And of course, use predictive analytics to understand what's working and what's not working, right? Data must be a part of a successful human-centered workforce. I could repeat that over and over again. So number two, addressing talent shortages. We've found that close to 50% and growing of the U.S. working population are actively job searching or watching for opportunities, right? And we know some are leaving for better pay. Others fear of going back to unsafe working conditions, and some are burned out, some are exhausted, they're beat, right? They want to take a break, and the status quo is not working for them. So what can we do there? First of all, stop guessing, right? Stop guessing why you can't fill your candidate pipeline or why your employees are leaving, and start listening and responding to employee needs. So I can't stress this enough. You have to stop guessing and start listening. And you can do this by defining your experience goals, getting stakeholder alignment, ask questions, right? What should your candidate experience feel like? What should your employee experience feel like? And understand it, make it your own. Again, don't guess, ask, understand, listen, adapt, and then change. And then finally, based on what you learn, build a best-in-class experience strategy, right? Focused on engaging candidates and new hires, and focus on employee experience, whole person experience, focusing on retaining and inspiring current employees. So number 3, rethinking productivity and engagement. This one, as we know, is a hot topic. About 90% of employees say they want to be allowed to work remotely in some cases or all of the time. So 9 out of every 10 employees would prefer to work remotely. Others who can't, frontline positions, and they need more support and flexibility to accommodate outside work demands. So the key word here is flexibility, flexibility, flexibility. So it is time to rethink your process and programs and practices to ensure employees have the flexibility. And what can you do? Define your processes and programs and policies around flexible work, communicate them, right? Implement listening programs, not just surveys, that take a new approach into gathering feedback and measuring productivity. And then align a wide range of data, but with intentionality, right? So a wide range, but specific, with specific work outputs to identify obstacles and opportunities for improving your overall productivity across the board. And then experiment and listen and learn and change. And finally, we need to create a community of belonging. Companies across industries are moving forward, accelerating their commitment and cultivating diverse and equitable, inclusive cultures, advancing formal programs. And organizations that will succeed will see improved job performance, less turnover, more inspired workers, just simply a better human experience. But companies must move from promise to progress. They have to move from promise to progress, right? We can't stop at promise. and this takes courage to recognize the continued change that's needed. And this takes commitment. So I want to quickly bring Sonia on in about 3 minutes. There's a change model up. I want to walk through this, and I'll do this quickly. Everything we've been talking about sort of sets up the need to change, why we should change, the purpose of change, why a human-centered workforce. There's a little feedback. Oh, there's Sonia. I think there might be a little.
Is it?
No, unfortunately, it's a little.
I think we're away.
It's gone for now. Here, I'll just finish quickly with this model before as we get the audio working. So real fast, change mindset is the most important thing before change can even begin. And this takes courage, right? Understanding I need to change. The status quo is not good enough. I want to go over there. The North Star is where we need to be. It's the willingness to let something go, the willingness to adapt and change. That takes courage. In order to change, you must be connected with people around you. People need to support you through any change you're going through in life. And that takes a certain amount of humility and empathy, right? Going through any change, understanding what you don't know, getting different perspectives on how to move forward, and having transparent conversations and being committed to that change, committed to that direction you're going. And only then can we begin with a change approach. And this is made up of inspiring people first, right? You need to be inspired to change, but you need that mindset first. And this allows you to overcome inertia with that change mindset, right? And then we prepare. Do we have everything in place? Do we have the right tools? Do we have the right technologies? Do we have the right alignment, right? Across the organization, the right belief of why we're changing? Have we communicated effectively, right? That's the preparation stage. So don't just jump to the change plan without really preparing it. The activation is where it starts. And this is where we start to unlock our people power through listening programs, through implementing any type of change tools, conversations, really getting up there and saying, this is where we are today, this is where we're going, activating, gathering data, listening, and that leads us to answers that ultimately drive and allow us to create sustained change. We listen and we adapt. We listen and we adapt. And with this, we can create change. It's a simple model, but powerful. And it can be applied to the smallest of changes within organizations to the largest of transformations. So I think, let's see if Sonia's back yet. Sonia, it looks like you're just about back. I will say a quote. I think you might appreciate. I think you're still. Can anyone else in the chat let me know if Sonia is still how she sounds? Is it just me?
Me, but I don't know why.
Yeah, it's a little bit. Well, you want to reboot, and then I can keep going for 5 minutes. Okay. So I'm assuming that. Okay, great. Thanks, Jess. There was some feedback, the robotic voice. So one of my favorite quotes I've been using recently is every great dream begins with a dreamer, right? Always remember you have within you the strength, the patience, and the passion to reach for the stars to change the world. And so my ask of all of you is we do need to focus more on each other. We need to take care of each other more. We need to inspire each other more. There's a lot of anger out there. There's a lot of, it's fair to say there's a lot of hate out there. It's up to us. It's up to individuals collectively to make change. So then this isn't just feel good stuff anymore, right? So when we talk about this, this is necessary, right? This is needed, right? We need more love and more caring, and we need each other, right, to get through all of this. So that's my ask of all of you as you think about creating and pushing forward a more human-centered workforce. It's complicated and it's easy at the same time, right? So let's see if Sonia's coming back. She's booting up. All right, she's back. Fingers crossed.
All right, how do we sound? I didn't do it. It's so wild. This is like
it's always the reboot. I've been in technology a long time, and every single tech support call I had is just reboot.
Yeah, but like what's so funny before our session today, I turned off my computer and restarted it. I turned off my router and restarted it. So I felt really good. And I got new Wi-Fi recently, so I have like corporate level Wi-Fi, even though I work from home. It was my AirPods. And I was telling Guy, I'm like, I don't even know. This is the first time. I don't even know how to troubleshoot this. So I turned off my phone in case it was there. But anyways, we're back. Nice little curveballs.
Crystal clear.
I love it. So I was taking notes on my iPad. Let's see. Hopefully that doesn't cross any wires. But I have so many different notes, and we have some questions from the audience, and I have some questions, and I will selfishly start with mine, if that's okay. Because I'm hoping this is a really relevant one, and I'll start with a personal story too that has nothing to do with work, but is related to this. So I've been really thinking about well-being a lot over the last couple of years, and how I can do it better, and how I can do it better in a more manageable way. So my ways were doing yoga in the morning, and trying to drink lemon water, and making sure I really incorporate fruits and more vegetables, sadly still than fruits. And the other day I was like, you know what? I'm gonna get coconut milk and make coffee with coconut milk in the morning. So yesterday I was rocking 2 coffees. I put in about I don't know, half a cup to a cup in each one. And I was like, I'm feeling great. And I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan. It was just a thing I wanted to try. And this morning I gave myself a little bit of time, to lay down in bed, and I was like, you know what? I wonder what the health benefits are of coconut milk. And I found a couple of things, and it's like, oh, it has electrolytes and it can help with this, this, and this. But be careful not to have too much, maybe like a couple of tablespoons a day, couple times a week. I was like, "What?" Like, I had my daily intake, like, in one day, I had no idea. So, why is that relevant to what we're talking about, you might be wondering, is I wonder your take. Like, I think that there are a lot of people out there, there are a lot of leaders who care about their people and who just like, like me drinking all this coconut milk, think like that whatever they're doing the right thing. And they're taking the right steps and they're really caring. And I took a note, where you were saying ask, understand, listen, adapt, change, like to have that, the two-way conversation. But I don't know, like, what have you seen in those situations where people think they're doing the right things, but they're missing the mark? Like, what is most generally a step that they're missing is that they're not asking, but they feel like I know my people so well. I just want to rush and take action. I don't want to take more time data gathering because, we're losing people. I want to make sure the ones like where, because to me, that is always the biggest opportunity for those people that really want to make a difference, but they're just missing one critical component to really be most effective. Like in your research and your work with different companies, have you seen something really stand out in that kind of example?
I'd say the number one thing is timely feedback
Mm,
for leaders, because I think the moments where you can quick it can be soon forgotten. I think as you're working through the day, through the weeks, through the months, but getting and asking for timely feedback from your team, after a meeting, how did it go? Did we achieve what we wanted to achieve? So really opening up yourself to getting feedback and absorbing it. I think that's the number one opportunity. Like anything, if you wait 6 months, whether it's a relationship, a personal relationship, or in the workplace, it won't have as much meaning or impact. So my
yeah.
advice for anybody is, especially if there's retention issues or productivity isn't quite where it needs to be or engagement levels are low, is really open up a two-way conversation. Be
Yeah.
willing to listen and empower people around you to give you real-time feedback.
Yeah.
I think that's that's
Uh,
that's one thing.
I think that's great advice. And I think to me, and this is something I'm still personally like a work in progress in, but sometimes people are worried about what they're going to hear and how bad is it going to be? And am I going to be able to handle it? And from my experience, most of the time, the feedback is actually much better than what we would expect, and it's not as harsh, and it's more actionable, and it's not so big. Like, a lot of companies we talk with think, like, if I start to, like, scratch the surface, what I'm gonna find out is so monumental, and then I will have asked, and I can't make that change, and I actually don't see that being the case very often. I think more than often it's, if I wish I would have asked sooner because all those concerns that I had and maybe guesswork that I made would have been alleviated if I just knew. And to your point, like if it doesn't happen in a timely way, sometimes we really can, get so concerned and start spinning ourselves maybe in the wrong direction. So like that really positive energy, unfortunately, goes not in the place where it can be most useful or most impactful or address the biggest challenge.
Yeah, and also the feedback you typically hear, in most cases, it's not a surprise. It just reinforces probably what you already know.
Yeah.
But sometimes hearing it from somebody else will help solidify it for yourself and help activate change. Um,
Yeah.
those blind spots we talk about, sometimes those of course exist, but in most cases we're somewhat tuned into those areas of opportunity
Yeah.
and improvement.
Yeah. And I think more often what I see than not is the magnitude of the need for something. So a lot of times what we'll see in our research is that managers, especially, the higher up you get in the organization, sometimes maybe experience culture differently than somebody who hasn't been with the organization as long. And so you might almost like know a list of concerns of challenges, but the magnitude and how you're experiencing them could be very different than your people. So asking for that feedback, really, like if you're like, okay, I have these 10 things that I have to work on, and okay, 10 things is kind of a lot. Where do I start? Without that conversation, you might pick out the things that are still important, but maybe not as critical across the organization as you're perceiving them. And then you go down that path and you're like, oh, wait a minute. Now that I had a conversation with a few people, I'm realizing that I could have, rechanneled my energy in a little bit more effective way.
Yes.
Um, you talk a lot, and we've done some research together around values and how important they are, and really being, in line with that mission. Um, how important do you think it's right now for organizations to, especially ones that have been established for more than a several years, to take a step back? And I don't know if doing an audit is the right, it's not like, it doesn't sound like an exciting word, but maybe do some introspection and say, this is who we've been, but is this who we are today? Or maybe more importantly, is this who we want to be today? Because I've worked with organizations for a long time around values. And sometimes, in my opinion, there's this like misconception that we've established these values and we can never change. And a lot of times they say, well, but organizations are human, like humans, like we change over time and we don't want to stay the same. Like that's not fun. Like we want to grow and evolve, and we want to realize that who maybe we thought we wanted to be, now we wanna be somebody different. But, like, now with so much change happening, and you were, so articulately, like, communicating that now is a time where we can make a huge impact. How important is it, do you think, for organizations to prioritize doing that work today?
It's so important. I mean, just to put it in perspective, imagine looking at the progress that we made with, women's rights, with racial justice. And if we go back and say, well, 30 years ago, it was like X, but that's just what it was. So we shouldn't have changed things. We shouldn't have pushed things forward. And we can't compare what happened 30 years ago to now. We have to understand that we're constantly evolving, right? So organizations
Yeah.
have to do the same. And in fact, their people will expect that. And I think there'll be a lot of pride if organizations do step up and say, look, this is what we were, this is what we believe in, but it's okay to reset and change. Our value system is changing. A lot of the world is changing around us, like I said a few times. So I absolutely, and I don't, and whether we call it an audit or just a recommitment, and
Yeah.
adaptations, a tweaking, whatever it might be, absolutely, you need to do that, and that
Yeah.
will allow you to attract better talent and build better relationships. Right? Again, that
Yeah.
84-year relationship. That you want to make sure there's some connection, and an honest connection between here's what
Yeah.
we stand for, here's our values, here's what I believe, here's what I stand for, and there's an honest connection there, and that creates great employee engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we have time maybe for one more question or so. I was telling when we were preparing with the team, like, oh, what do you want to do, between sessions? I was like, between sessions? Like, we're gonna have Dan for like every minute. Like there's like you're gonna have to like pull me off for the next session for us to stop talking. But let's see if maybe we'll have a minute, but I doubt it. One question came up from one of our participants or listeners that I thought is something that's really important to address now. So it says, you spoke about how you handled a recession and modern survey in 2008, and with the fear of looming or potential upcoming recession in the US again, what advice would you give to companies about what they can start thinking about or doing now if the economy does change to do the right by their people? And I know, for those of you who know me, I'm currently sitting in Buenos Aires, Argentina. I still get all of my news updates from the US, but I imagine, and I was just there, that there's a lot of that in the news. And a lot of it is, very real. A lot of it is, the media sometimes brings the worst case scenario. But I know
Yeah,
a lot of companies are thinking about this. What would you
yeah.
be advised to, like, based on the reality today, what would you
So
recommend they do?
I know we only have a couple of minutes, so I'll just keep it very precise. We talk about you need to plan and not panic. So
Yeah.
plan, don't panic. And I think we're too quick, and right now I think too often we might start to panic. And I think that's absolutely the wrong thing to do. We can't just, if we immediately put the focus on the right here, right now, and that's all we focus on, and forget about our North Star, forget about where we're going, forget about our people programs, that it'll make it worse. You actually create your own problem, right? Yeah. So I think if you're being planful, communicating, paying attention to the environment around you, but try to keep panic to a minimum. And if you've done the work over the past couple of years and you have started to create more of a people first culture, a human centric culture, right? This is when you need your people more than ever, right? To step up and be a part of problem solving. And so, I urge you to, again, you're all in it together. Stay calm and cool. Plan. Panicking is never helpful. So that would be my very high level advice. But hopefully, someone can take that and take a breath.
Yes, I think everybody needs to hear that at least every once in a while. Absolutely, like it will be okay. And if you've done the work, that work will certainly help you. And if you haven't, do now. Like it's not too late.
And it doesn't mean in some cases there's tough decisions that organizations have to make, and I want to be clear with that. But if you're careful and again you're not panicking and it's planful and it's open and it's transparent, typically you can do the right thing by your organization and most importantly by your people, and that should always be the number one priority.
Yeah. Well, Dan, thank you so incredibly much for everything you shared with us today. It is always a pleasure. For those who were able to listen to the whole thing or want to catch up on different things and connect with you maybe after, what's the best way for our friends, family, and audience to get in touch with you?
I will put into chat or maybe someone from the Radical team can put in my LinkedIn address.
Perfect.
Or my email address too, which I'm completely fine, which is maybe we'll drop it into the chat here in a moment. So email or LinkedIn.
Yeah. And if you have my contact information, but you can't find Dan's, you let me know and I'll get it over to you. But thank you so much again. It's always such a pleasure. Thank you for sharing everything. I love every time I have an opportunity to talk with you. I have more ideas. I feel better and more optimistic about the future. So thank you again for spending the time with us, and we'll look forward to talking with you again soon.
Thank you for the invite. Have a great rest of the day. I'm looking forward to see the next couple.